In the daytime, I'm Emily, just a normal girl with a normal life. But there's something about me that no one knows yet, because I am a secret. Miraculous Season 2, Azura Media Club, let's go! Yeah, so this is Miraculous Ladybug Season 2. Stick around to join the Bad Girl Coven, subscribe. This is the home of the Bad Girl Coven, the Azura Media Club. And we're talking one of the best seasons of Miraculous Ladybug. A great-ass show. So good. Such a good show. And Season 2 is such a great evolution to said show. The original season is okay, It's good in its own way. It's a typical kids show Season 1, right? But goddamn, does Season 2 just kick it up a fucking notch. Starting off with that cliffhanger from the last season. You have the Collector. A great episode. Such a good episode. It's kind of frustrating because it throws them off of Hawkmoth's track, because he is Gabriel Grass. Spoilers for Miraculous Ladybug Season 2 and all other seasons of Miraculous Ladybug. Anyway, since we now know he's Gabriel Agrest, he akumatizes himself. Marinette meets Master Fu finally, and he explains a couple things to her. Not too terribly much, if I remember correctly, but they figure out that the book might be related to Hawkmoth. Whoever had the book might be Hawkmoth, and she's like, oh, it can't be Adrian, and it's like, you fucking idiot. And then she, puts it together. She's like, oh, maybe it's Gabriel Agrest. He stays in his house all the time, and he's a billionaire, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yes, Marinette, you figured it out. And then she's like, no, it can't. And by the end of the episode, she's like, no, it couldn't have been him, because he got akumatized. And it's like, fuck you. So, yeah, and then she doesn't figure out it's him until Season 5, so... Still, overall, a great fucking episode. There's a great part where Adrian's like, she's telling him, oh, it's Gabriel Agrest, and he's like, you got any proof? He's real, fucking shocked by this news. Obviously, that's his dad. So yeah, great episode of Ladybug. I can't remember which episode it is. I think it's Gorzilla, where he notices Adrian's ring. And he kind of, looks at it, and he analyzes the ring from from modeling photos and stuff, and he, puts the pieces together that it might be Adrian. I think it is Gorzilla, which we'll talk about here in a bit, but... So that's an interesting thing. He doesn't figure it out, but... Oh, yeah, and you have this song from Despair Bear, when they have their first dance, which is epic. That's, episode 4 or whatever. That's a great scene right there. We'll just talk about it since I'm already talking about it. A little bit out of order, but that's okay. Chloe has to be nice because she's mean to everyone, right? This teasing of a Chloe redemption arc, and they were on the path to it, especially at the end of the season. She was doing so well, and then Thomas Astruct is like, no, she was never meant to be redeemed. She's irredeemable. And honestly, it just brings up that line, nobody's useless, from later in the season. I think that might have been, the Style Queen arc or whatever. Anyway, so, yeah, I don't agree with all of that, obviously. I really wish she had gotten redeemed. Although they do a lot of crazy stuff with her later. Maybe if they had a good reason for her to go back. I guess the whole her not being able to be Queen Bee thing later on kind of rubbed her back in that direction. But I still thought it was kind of lazy to basically redeem her and then go in that direction. She did screw herself over by immediately... telling everyone her secret identity, though. But anyway, we'll get there in a second. Oh, wait. Despair Bear is episode 2? What? Okay. I guess we were talking about the right episode then. Despair Bear. So, anyway, Chloe has to be nice because Adrian's like, you can't just be a bitch to everyone. You gotta be nice. It's not that hard, you know, basically. And he's like, if you want us to be friends, you gotta try here, you know? And her butler, Jean, whatever his name is, that's the running joke, you know. Spot on! I better not say it. I should have the Miraculous here somewhere. Here it is. For another day. It's not time yet. But anyway. So, right. So Despair Bear. So her butler gets akumatized because he's got this bear, right? Her teddy bear or whatever, that he keeps like, oh, Mr. Cuddly wouldn't like that, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it works a couple of times. Then when everyone sees it, she throws a party to be nice to everyone. And then when everyone sees it at the party, they all start laughing, and she gets really pissed off, and she's like, you're fired! And then, so he gets akumatized, and then the bear, like, whoever it grabs onto, he can take control of. It's pretty cool. Pretty good villain, and a real step up, and that's what I'm trying to get at here. Every villain is a step up from the Season 1 villains. They're interesting characters that are getting akumatized, not that they were before. I'm just saying, everything is kind of escalating here. And it was a nice setup, you know? We got Chloe, we saw the butler, we saw what he was trying to do for her. And it makes sense, you know? You get why he's emotionally scarred from this situation or whatever, you know? Why he's emotionally angry or whatever, you know? You get the idea. So, it's a nice little story leading up to the akumatization, which we did a little bit of last season, but they have really taken that and done a lot with that, which I think is really nice. So, yeah. So episode 3. Oh, and of course the epic dance scene there. Marinette and Adrian dance, and that's like their first dance, and they dance to that song, and it's like their song from then on. Like, oh my god, right? Is that so cute? It is. It's a great little moment from that episode. Then you have Prime Queen, another great villain. Like, she's a lot like Lady Wi-Fi, where she can, like, go through screens or whatever. But, the whole reason, like, she's kind of a great villain. Well, for one, it's Nadia Shamak, who, like, we know from the last season, she was a prominent character there, and you know, they akumatize a lot of people. You're like, why didn't that person get akumatized? They get akumatized this season, more than likely. So, Prime Queen, classic villain episode there. I don't really remember too much notable from that episode. I know there was a couple of scenes in there that were interesting, but, yeah. Then you have Bafana, which is another great episode, with Marinette's, grandma comes to town. On her dad's side, I believe. That's the grandma from the dad's side, yeah. She's married to the baker guy from season 3, I believe. You know, that's not how it's done, you know, that guy. Anyway, so there's a whole thing about, like, Marinette, and her grandma, like, just doesn't get that she's, like, grown up, or just, like, doesn't really vibe with that. And so the whole episode, she's kind of, like, because it's her birthday or whatever, like, so her friends are, like, trying to set up a surprise party, and her grandma's, like, trying to give her this candy she liked when she was a kid, and do all these things, like, go to the zoo, like, when she was a kid, and Marinette's just not, like, into it as much, obviously, because she was grown up a little bit, but she humors her grandma because she doesn't want to hurt her feelings. Eventually, she leaves to go to her party, or whatever, and her grandma gets really sad. Hawkmoth akumatizes her, and she, like, has this gun that, like, shoots these candies that can turn you into an angel or into stone, basically. So, yeah, decent episode. One of the best parts of the episode is at the end of the episode when Adrian gives Marinette a gift, and it turns out to be the gamer. He made her a gamer charm, like from the episode Gamer. Like the charm that she gave him, he made one for her. So now they both have one. It's really super cute. And that's a great part of the episode. Also, Marinette's grandma is like a great character, and it's always cool when she's there, you know. So that's a good episode. There's also some emotion, I think, with her and that with her grandma and all of that. You know, and then you just keep getting the hits. You got, yeah, honestly, I don't, wait, are these in order? These can't, is these in the right order? These might, okay, yeah, these are in the right order. Then you have Riposte, which is the introduction of Kagame, a very prominent character later on in the series. It's all about, like, fencing, and, like, Marinette, like, trying to get on the fencing team so that she can be with Adrian. She says this, like, really funny line. She's like, have you seen Adrian? He's, like, a guy, like, this tall, very handsome, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, thanks for the compliment. And she's like, it's Adrian! You know, like, it's just kind of funny. But she gets really jealous of Kagame and the fact that, like, I guess she's a girl and Adrian seems like really smitten by her a little bit or something because of the fencing thing. I don't know. This is like early Marinette, which should get jealous about stuff like that. So, but anyway, introduction of Kagame, that's a really important thing. A really important character that gets introduced here in this episode. And she turns out to be a pretty great villain overall. She wants revenge on Adrian for, like, winning the match earlier or whatever. So that's a thing. Yeah, so pretty good episode overall. I like that one. I like Kagame as a character. She's a great character. I mean, if you had asked me back then, I would have been like, yeah, Kagame's okay. Luca's a terrible character. It's like, I don't really think that anymore. I do like Luca and Kagame, and I know where they belong in the story. I was just really, like, tired of this whole, like, you know, oh, we're going to do the alternate lovers story. Like, we know they're going to end up together at the end. So, like, why are we doing this? But it does actually make sense later. That's one of the coolest things about this season. Having seen the later seasons, it only makes season 2 better. They'll make references, like, there was one line where it was like, why doesn't Hawkmoth just make his own rings or whatever when they're talking about, like, Cat Noir's Miraculous, and I'm like, he does do that in the later, in season 5, he turns all the Miraculouses into rings. And there's a couple things like that where they like talk about stuff like that. And, you know, just knowing where they end up, there's a lot of little cute things here that, like, kind of lead into that. He says in one of the episodes, he's like, one day I'll have all the Miraculouses and you'll all be screwed or something. You know, something to that effect. And I'm just like, you do get all the Miraculouses at one point and they are screwed. Yeah, it's great. But anyway. He got to make his wish, so I mean, that's pretty cool, so. And I do want to talk about something in Heroes Day that is very epic. You know, that whole episode set is very epic, but we'll talk about that when we get there. Alright, so we were talking about Riposte, which is a great episode. There it is. Okay. After Riposte, you have Robustness, another great episode. If you don't notice a pattern here, every episode in season 2 is a great episode for the most part. I love season 2. It's actually one of my favorite seasons of Miraculous Ladybug. So yeah, Robustness. Max has, you know, Max, the nerdy guy from Gamer or whatever, has this little, like, robot guy, this little AI dude, and there's this whole thing where, like, he saves the mainframe at the school from being, like, deleted or whatever, and then, like, they're like, put your toy away, and he's like, Max is like, he's not a toy, he's my best friend, and all this stuff. It's like some good emotion there, you know? And then you see Hawkmoth akumatize this AI, this robot. And you're like, oh yeah, he does have emotions or whatever. He gets taken away to the principal's office, but then he gets akumatized, and then he like can build stuff out of like cars and all sorts of crazy stuff, you know. And yeah, so like, and he just wants to spend time with Max is kind of the whole thing there. So it's a great episode because Markov, or Robustus, you know, when he gets akumatized, is a great character overall, and it's a cool introduction to that character, but also it gives you some good details and lore about the Miraculouses. He asks, like, define Miraculous, and he's like, the Ladybug and Cat Noir, the jewels, and the thing, and he's like, what would happen if you had both of them? Or, like, he was trying to figure out, like, why Hawkmoth wanted them, and he's like, he like pauses, and he's like, nobody's ever asked me that, and he's like, you can make a wish if you have both of them, and he's like trying to make a wish so he could be a real person, but there's a consequence to every time you make the wish. So if he was a real person, you know, then somebody else would lose their humanity. Which really brings into question Season 5 and the ending there. What was the consequence of Gabriel's wish? His death? Is that it? Is there more to that? We don't know. And we won't find out until Season fucking 6. Apparently action is just going to be a environment thing. Hawkmoth's in it, so I mean Monarch at that point is in it. So I mean obviously it takes place before the end of Season 5. So yeah, but Robustus. First time we actually get to figure out, like, what's the deal? Like, what's he trying to do? Like, you know, we get a clue on that, which is he's trying to make a wish. We don't know what the wish is at that point, but we kind of speculate, you know, and by the end of the season, they pretty much confirm what that wish is. Yeah, so next episode after that is Gigantotitan. Another great episode. Hey, look at that. Another great episode, right? They're all great, I swear. Like, most of Season 2 is great. I think Captain Hard Rock is like my one dud of episodes. Let's look through the whole list and let's find out, is there a dud? Dark Owl is great. Glaciator is great. That's a great episode. Sapites is an amazing episode. We'll talk about that in a bit. Gorzilla, another amazing episode. Captain Hard Rock. Okay, kind of whatever. Zombie Zoo, great episode. Siren, great episode. Frightening Gale, great episode. Troublemaker, great episode. And Nazi, yeah, another okay episode. Sandboy is a great episode. Reverser, another okay episode. There's like a couple of them that are just like okay. Frozer is a great episode. The Style Queen trilogy, really, with Maledictator, Queen Wasp, all that. All great. Catalyst, Myra, great. Santa Claus, decent, you know? Pretty good. For what you can expect from a Ladybug Christmas special. So, pretty much there's only like a couple, like, episodes there. So, but yeah. So let's talk about the next one. Which is Gigantotitan. Apparently that's it. Apparently that's the entire Miraculous Ladybug soundtrack right there. So, let's just run into something else here. But yeah, Gigantotitan is great. Classic meme episode between me and my friends. No, not Hawk Moo! You know, so. But, so, the whole thing about Gigantotitan is, Marinette is trying to set up this romantic setting with Adrian, right? So, basically the whole thing is she just wants to get his driver to go away so that they could take a rickshaw together, which is like that little cart thing with the biking person. And, so they can take it together so they get a chance to talk and it's romantic or whatever. That's the whole premise of this. Adrian has a photo shoot. When he gets off of that, they're going to all try to lure him there, and his driver's not going to be there, so they have to take the rickshaw. Easy, right? Well, with Marinette, it's never easy. But anyway, so they're there in position. They all have flower names, and Rose isn't Rose. Julica is Rose. So that like causes this funny joke and all of that. That's another great dynamic of this episode, is the girl, however many people, the girl friend group is great. They're dynamic together, especially Alex. She's hilarious. But Rose and Julica are great, and then like Mylene and Mylene. That's how the fucking overly animated people say it. They got me doing it. Mylene. That's how they say it in the show. Mylene. And Marinette and Alia, obviously, are all there. But it's a great episode because of that stuff. But then also there's this subplot. It's not really a subplot. It's the secondary plot, or the main plot, really, even if you want to get into that. About this little baby who just wants a lollipop. And so he's like, lollipop, lollipop, lollipop. Baby August. And then he gets akumatized. The gorilla, you know, the driver was about to get akumatized because of, like, all this, their plan or whatever. But he doesn't get akumatized because he sees Adrian and he, like, calms down. But the baby gets akumatized, and Hawkmoth's just like, oh, what? So, but he's just like, I'll roll with it, fuck it. So he's like, you'll be big and powerful, and you'll have the ability to do anything you want. So he's just basically a giant baby. So there's a lot of hijinks with that. Gigantititan is a pretty good episode. It's at least funny in its concepts. But I like the other stuff. All of that stuff going wrong. The whole plan with Marinette and all of that. And then at the very end, she kind of does get where she wants to be. Adrian's there. She's there. But she turns down his car ride and screws it up, and she's like, I'll take a coleslaw instead. And he's like, enjoy your meal. And then of course she meant the rickshaw, but it's just a fun episode overall, though. I like it. I think there's a lot to like about Gigantititan. That's a fun episode, you know? So, and everything kind of builds a little bit more on something, you know? Before, it didn't really feel like we were doing anything, and it's not exactly serialized or anything yet. They do that in the later seasons, but we still are building to Marinette and Adrian with these things in these episodes, you know, different attempts at it, you know, different little things pushing us forward and whatnot. The dance, you know, the little moments like that throughout the episodes. We're definitely getting there. So I think that's kind of a little bit of what Gigantititan contributed there. Dark Owl, my friend John's favorite episode, or was his favorite episode. I don't know. Maybe it's not anymore, but definitely a great episode. You know, you have Mr. Damocles, the principal there, who takes on this persona of the Dark Owl, which is like this Batman sort of character. And Ladybug and Cat Noir have to kind of dig him out of a bunch of scenarios because he's trying to be a superhero, but he doesn't have any superpowers, so he's kind of always falling and getting himself hurt almost, but they go to save him and whatnot, and it's basically taking up all of their time. So they devise a way to make him a hero for a day, so that he'll like kind of get over it, basically, which doesn't end up being the best plan. They make Alia pretend to be Cardboard Girl, an akumatized victim, and he ends up saving them from him, or from Alia, from her. But Marinette ends up accidentally revealing his secret identity, and he's really crushed by that. So Hawkmoth akumatizes him, and he's actually a pretty competent villain. That's a good theme of this season too. There's actually some pretty competent villains in this season. This is one of them. He devises this whole plan. He gets him to the stadium. He gets him in this like one of those shipping containers, basically, and he's like, it's gonna fill up with whipped cream and you'll drown. basically. But and you can take your Miraculous and put him in this little slot that would like give him to me, or whatever. And so it's like this moment they have to like de-transform inside of there, like eyes closed, of course. And Tiki and Plague get to see who the holders are, so now they know. So that's interesting. As we find out later in Sandboy, though, that they can't say the names of their owners. So, when revealing it to people, I guess they could say it to their owner, but not when talking to other people. So, yeah. So anyway, what was I talking about? Gosh, I lost the plot. How did I lose it? Dark Owl, right, of course. So, he's actually a pretty threatening villain in sorts. And another thing that he did that was really clever is he left his Akuma outside of where he was. Like, every villain pretty much carries their Akuma on them. He didn't. He had it in his computer back at the high school there. Or the middle school or whatever. I don't know. What fucking grade are these people in, right? Apparently it's only a year over the entire span of the show, so thus far. So... yeah, so they have to figure that out, that the Akuma's back there, which is another really clever thing. She ends up giving him fake Miraculouses, by the way. So, but he almost gets her Miraculous when they're back in his office there. So that's another really close call. But she ends up, like, kicking a thing that, like, knocks a thing into the computer, and then that ends up working out for her. So, pretty cool still. Great episode, though. And you really feel his struggle. You know, he wants to be a superhero like them. He's really sad and broken when he can't be, you know? But they end up finding out in the end, like, hey, he can just be, like, a guy who helps the homeless people and stuff that you can do that basically kind of makes you a superhero, but, you know, you're just being a really good person, cleans up the environment, that kind of stuff, you know? Stuff that he can actually work on. So... that's nice, you know? That's a good message. We can all be superheroes, in a sense, you know? Kind of the Spider-Man thing, you know? Anybody can be behind the mask or whatever. I like that. I thought that was a good message. I thought that's just a great episode. You know, what a good episode of Miraculous Ladybug. Very, very top-tier Season 2 episode, which is high praise because Season 2 is already such a great season. Alright, so then you have Glaciator, which is another great episode, very heavy on the, Cat Noir, Marinette ship. What is that? Miracat, right? Miracat? Yeah. So, Cat Noir sets up this, like, romantic, rooftop thing for Ladybug, and he says, like, hey... Come, if you have time, and, like, we'll, you know, I've got a surprise for you, basically. And she's like, oh, I probably won't have time hanging out with my friends. And then she, as Marinette, is trying to hang out with Adrian, who's obviously up there on the roof as Cat Noir. But she's trying to hang out with Adrian, going to Andre's ice cream place, which becomes a big deal in this thing. I mean, it is in previous episodes, but, like, this is where it becomes like a big deal. And so this Andre guy, Marinette's all broken up that Adrian's not there. And she tells Andre she doesn't really believe in his ice cream or the magic of it. And it kind of, like, breaks him. And, you know, he gets akumatized into this, like, big ice cream snowman kind of dude. But I think before that or after... No, somewhere before that, I would assume. Marinette and Cat Noir hang out on that roof, and he basically is like, I planned all this for Ladybug, and she didn't show up, and Marinette's like, oh, but it's beautiful, and she would have really loved it, and etc., etc. And she does end up seeing it at the end. There's a scene where she's like, I just think of you as a friend, basically, he, and then he reciprocates that, and he's like, here, you can have this rose, it goes better with your costume, and your friendship means everything to me, and blah, blah, blah. And of course he still hits on her and stuff afterwards, even though he knows that's how she feels, but I don't know, I know it can be seen as problematic, but we want them to get together in the end, right? That's what matters at the end of the day. So, I don't know. Because we know they're Marinette and Adrian. They don't know that, obviously, but I don't think it's too bad. But anyway, there's a whole thing with the glaciator. He won't, like, freeze, couples, so they pretend to be a couple, and then they have to, like, burrow through him to get to the core, which is Andre with the ice cream scoop thing, and that's what's akumatized. Good episode. I like that one. Definitely some classic moments in Glaciator. They kind of finally really talk about their feelings and actually delve into that, because they've like joked about it before, apparently, even though they've pretty much talked about it before, but apparently that was all joking because like Marinette, Ladybug, I guess it is, doesn't, she's like, you're in love with Ladybug or whatever, like as Marinette. Which is so stupid, because, like, he's in love with Ladybug. He said that, like, a bazillion times. Anyway. So that's a great episode. Sapates. Okay. The like, concept of the episode itself, all his sisters, like, her little sisters get akumatized. Whatever, like, fine. They multiply into gremlins. Yeah, great. That's fine. That's all good stuff. What's great about Sapates is finally, and we wanted it to happen since the very, beginning. Ollie is a great character. We all love Ollie, right? She's amazing. This is, like, her episode in a lot of ways. She gets to get a Miraculous. She is the first to get handed a Miraculous. And she gets the Miraculous of the Fox, which has the power of illusion. I remember when I first saw this, I freaked the fuck out because this was such an epic moment. This is the kind of epic stuff that season 2 starts, And you never beat the first time. I mean, there are people who've gotten Miraculouses after that, whatever. Ollie getting the Miraculous for the first time, that was an epic moment. I loved it. It's a great episode just for that. Just for her getting to be Rena Rouge for the first time. But the rest of the episode is great, too, obviously. And she almost doesn't give the Miraculous back to Marinette at the end, but then she makes the choice to give it back. She's like, oh, come on, we can totally fight crime together all the time, and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And, but Master Fu wanted the Miraculous back, because, he doesn't want to trust them out there in public. Good call, by the way, because Hawkmoth ends up getting them all in the end. But it's also ironic because they were all in the Miracle Box, and that's the reason he gets them all at the end. So, anyway. Yeah, so that's great. It introduces the fact that now people can get Miraculouses, which is awesome. And I don't remember if this is the first time we saw all the little drawers pan out or whatever. I think it might have been. Like, we'd seen the main compartment, like, with the 5 main ones there before, but then the little drawers open up and you see, like, all the Miraculouses, which is crazy. Alright, so after that is Gorzilla, which is another classic episode. So good. Actually, this one is, like, really top tier season 2, and I probably said that a lot in this video, but this one is great. Marinette and Adrian get a whole episode together, basically, where they go around, run away from, like, the paparazzi, essentially, all of his, like, fans and whatever. And there's all these like little funny, cute moments with them. Like they go to the movies, like she's in her pajamas the whole time. Blah blah blah. They're all running away. There's this guy YM. He's like a Adrian super fan basically, and this whole thing where he gets to pretend to be Adrian. This is also where he notices the ring. Hawkmoth does. Gabriel Gress there, and he like has Gorzilla, the driver. Also, notably, the episode where he calls his fucking driver to, like pretty much bitch him out so that he'll get akumatized, because like that happened. So yeah, he's a big gorilla, basically like King Kong, and he has like Adrian in his hand, and at one point he like drops him, and he's like, "Son, you have to, please, if you're Cat Noir, you have to like you have to transform." And he's got like Ladybug on the other hand, and he's like, "Let Ladybug go," like when he's about to hit the ground, basically, and so like she goes down, swoops down, and saves him. And at one point when he's Cat Noir, he has YM, who's got like, the same clothes as him or whatever, pretend to be him. And so there's that. So I don't know. Overall, it's just a great episode. The whole point of the episode too is Adrian wants to go to the movies to see this movie about his mom, which is a nice kind of touching thing. And then his dad at the end of the episode ends up showing him the movie, and he's like, "All you had to do was ask, son." So it's a nice moment between them, and then the most fucking epic thing happens, and we all fucking flipped out when this happened. Like we didn't know what it meant at the time, but like this was the introduction of this, okay? And I'll explain it here in a minute. It like pans down from where they're watching the movie, and you see it for the first time. The dead wife garden. Now that's a overly animated podcast, like way of putting it. But that's what I like to call it, is the dead wife garden. It's basically where Emily Agreste is resting in her like coma thing from the Peacock Miraculous. I still have so many questions about that and her that were not at all answered at the end of season 5 there. But the first time we get to see that. We don't get to see her there, but it's like, whoa, why did that pan out? What is that all about? Like, what's this shit? So that's really interesting. Love that. So that's great. So that episode is like perfect. That's like a perfect Ladybug episode. So many good things about it. And then you get pretty low tier Ladybug episode with Captain Hardrock. Not because of the introduction of Luca. It's just a pretty meh episode overall. I mean, Luca is fine, in this episode. I do like Luca. I do like where they go with his character later, how he ends up figuring out about Cat Noir and Ladybug, and I like him as Viperion, I believe it is. So, yeah, I like Luca. I didn't like Luca at the time because I thought he was just gonna be a useless like side, romance for Marinette or whatever. Which is kind of what happens, but he's not useless, Nobody's useless, It's like, but Captain Hardrock, give it a pass. I mean, you can't give it a pass if you're watching these episodes because you need to see how Luca got introduced or whatever. But gosh, it's just really not a great episode to rewatch. I mean, it's okay. It's an okay episode. I'm not like as negative on it as I used to be, but I just really don't care for it that much. Aside from Luca being introduced, it's an okay episode. Alright. Zombie Zoo, a great episode. It's Miss Boustier's birthday. Chloe forgets to give her a gift. And she ruins Marinette's gift, basically. Marinette gets really angry about that. And I think this is the classic line where they say like you're the reason for all the akumatizations or whatever in Paris. I think it's one of the times. I think they say that a lot of times to Chloe, but anyway, So Miss Bustier like pulls Marinette outside of class there, and Marinette's angry because she thinks she's in trouble, and she's really frustrated. And you see like an Akuma go, and you're like, oh man, Marinette's gonna get akumatized. And then you see Miss Bustier, and she's like, Marinettes are so important because, you know, they can give people like Chloe hope or something like that. Or, you know, they know how to keep calm when the Chloes are on the rampage, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And so Marinette, like, calms down, and the Akuma's there, but Miss Bustier sees the Akuma, and she's, like, trying to shield Marinette from it. And she's like, go away, and he's like, I can feed on the fear there, and so he akumatizes Miss Bustier, and she's all like, she's like, I don't want to do any evil for you, Hawkmoth. And he's like, I'm not talking about evil. I'm just talking about making everyone love each other. You know, classic Hawkmoth double standard shit. So, yeah, basically, she has the power to turn everyone into, like, these love zombies when they kiss people. Kissu! You know, they all say that, like, a million times. They're like love zombies, basically, which is, like, a fun way of the episode. They're all after Chloe, because she kind of started all of this, basically. But it's a fun episode, and it actually is the, sort of the beginning of the Chloe redemption arc. The thing that they were gonna do and then didn't do, but you see her at the end of the episode, and she's, like, huddled up and, you know, curled up or whatever, and she's like really sad, and she's like, this is all my fault, and, you know, I feel really bad about this. And she even says sorry to Miss Bustier at the end. She actually, like, gives her a gift and everything, and it's like, oh, like, she's learning, you know, like, she's like, I do care, and when I remember that it was Miss Bustier's birthday, I felt so bad, and that's why I was, like, just so angry about it, you know, really angry at myself about it, but I don't know how to express that kind of thing. And you really feel bad for Chloe, you know? It's got a nice emotional core to the episode there, and I really like that. And of course Miss Bustier, who's just such a great character. But the Chloe stuff, I think, definitely elevates the episode a lot. So, so then Siren, which is a great episode. It's all about this girl, Undine, I think is her name. She's got a crush on Kim, who's still got a crush on Chloe from Dark Cupid, you know, like that whole thing. She tries to tell him, and he just doesn't get it because he's an idiot. So she even does, like, basically tells him, and he's like, that boy's clueless or whatever. It's like, yeah, you're the fucking boy, you idiot. So she gets akumatized. She turns into Siren, which is like this mermaid sort of character, and because her and Kim love to swim and all that. And so she floods Paris, basically. And this is the first usage of a power-up in Ladybug. There was this whole thing when Master Fu, like, got the grimoire. Marinette ended up giving it back to Adrian's dad so that Adrian could go back to school or whatever. But he took pictures of it, and he's trying to figure out how to use the power-ups. And one of them is, like, this aqua power-up. Marinette ends up finding the final ingredient, which is a tear of joy, which is just basically you have to laugh, like a tear that you laughed out, basically. So she tells all these stupid jokes or whatever, like what does a snail say when he's on the back of a turtle? Whee! Like stupid shit like that. Master Fu ends up like crying, you know, and she gets the tear or whatever. So yeah, they have these power-ups now, the first of which is this aqua power-up that turns them, like, into just really good swimmers, basically. But they have new transformation sequences for it too. Oh my god, the transformation sequences this fucking season. I like them, I do, but god damn, they do it every episode. Part 1 of the finale episodes is like 5 transformation sequences. It's terrible. It's like every single one. Oh my god. I'm so glad that they like cut back on it in the later seasons. It just is so unnecessary. They're cool. I love them. Use them sparingly. Use them during Heroes Day, that's fine. Because, like, you know, it's epic and we need to see them all transform, I guess. But don't use them every episode. You don't need to do that. And they learned. They did it later. Okay, so... Anyway, Siren. So that's a great episode. The power-ups, the... Cat Noir gets really jealous that, like, Ladybug knows things that he doesn't. So he, like, ends up learning about Master Fu and stuff later. So that's cool. So yeah, great episode overall. Siren. Frightening Gale, which is pretty infamous for being the episode that they had to rhyme and dance the whole time. But basically it comes down to Marinette and Adrian both playing their Cat Noir and Ladybug in a music video through circumstances and whatnot, and they both are just like really nervous to put on the masks because then everyone will know that's them, you know, basically, or whatever. And this girl, this lady, famous singer lady, Clara Nightingale, is that her? Clara Nightingale? Is that the effect, right? Is that the joke? Clara Nightingale? Frightening Gale? Yeah, see, it is her. Anyway, I don't know if that's her name, but it is something similar to that because, yeah. Anyway, she basically makes everyone sing and dance or they freeze in place. Because she rhymes, like, all the time in her, like, normal life for whatever odd reason. So it's just, like, a fun gimmick for the episode. And the whole other half with the Ladybug and Cat Noir stuff is good. I don't know, just a fun episode. Look, good, solid episode for this season. Really the kind of quality you enjoy. It's an enjoyable episode, you know, for sure. Troublemaker, really great episode. One of my favorites of this season. It's a pretty average episode overall. There is a whole bit where Adrian sees the photos in Marinette's room because they're like broadcasting her bakery as like part of a show or whatever. Because like Jagged Stone is there and Penny, his assistant, is there. And it's all about, like, the whole episode, she's the one who gets akumatized. The whole episode is about how stressed she is, like, dealing with all of Jagged Stone's bullshit and, like, everyone else's bullshit and setting up everything. And then she gets, like, really overwhelmed and she's just, like, but what's nice is by the end of the episode, everyone keeps asking her, like, oh, what's it like to work with Jagged Stone? And it's, like, obviously that she really cares or maybe even loves Jagged Stone. But by the end of the episode, he's like, oh, Penny, I couldn't do anything without you. I love you. You know, like, he doesn't say that, but he, like, hugs her and, you know, does all this stuff. And it's, like, it's a very nice moment at the end there. But I love Penny. She's so great. She's so relatable. She's so down to earth. She's such a humble and nice character. And she does everything for everyone else. And I feel that sometimes. Like, you know, she's way too nice, basically. But she gets this power to turn invisible, kind of like Vanisher, except a little bit better than that. And she can, like, pull pranks and stuff. But she uses it to... She literally gets one of Marinette's earrings and, like, her costume, like, starts to come off. And it's this whole thing within the fandom. Back then, we thought, like, Cat Noir knew who Ladybug was because, like, half of her face was unveiled. So that's kind of a good moment from the episode. There's a lot of great moments from this episode. I think Troublemaker is a really good episode, especially for the emotional sort of journey there of Penny and all the characters around her and the whole Marinette thing. And at the end, like the whole, are you lying, when Adrian's like asking her about the photos and the photographs in my room. The photographs? Yeah, the photograph. I don't remember what she says. I remember photographs, but that's the only one I remember. Anyway, and he invites her to the next photo shoot, which ends up being the Style Queen stuff, by my interpretation. But anyway, she would have been invited to that anyway, because it was her hat from Mr. Pigeon, that gets entered in the Style Queen stuff, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Couple more episodes to do for then. Anansi, Alia's sister gets akumatized. She's really pissed off because they like cheated in an arm wrestling contest or whatever. Notably, Adrian's on a phone next to Marinette, and she's like actually getting in full sentences with him and stuff, which is nice. But he's just kind of hanging out. Like, Ollie and Nino are obviously a thing, and like him and Marinette at least are able to communicate through the FaceTime sort of stuff. It's just nice. It's nice that they get time to be with each other, even if it's just through this limited interaction, you know? It shows that they're growing as friends and you know, just building more to their relationship, basically. So, the whole thing is she gets akumatized, and but she's like this spider, like Anansi. That's kind of the thing. That's like her nickname. But anyway, she captures Cat Noir in her web, and she captures Alia in her web, and Nino's there, and he can't really help out, but he wants to help out, and he wants the power to help out. So Ladybug like ends up having to go to get Master Fu's Miraculous, the turtle one, gives it to Nino so he can become Carapace, and it's basically like a Captain America kind of shield sort of deal, and it can make a dome over you too and stuff like that. So yeah, he becomes Carapace. Alia like knew the whole time that he was Carapace or whatever. They even like mentioned that in the finale or whatever. So yeah, but so that's cool. It's an alright episode, you know. It's the introduction of Carapace. I like Nino's stuff in the episode. It's just, I don't know, it's just an okay episode compared to some of the other ones from this season. You know, with so many great episodes in the season, some of them just have to be okay, you know? Then you have Sandboy, a really interesting episode. There's a lot of really notable things about the episode. First off, we don't see the villain getting akumatized. It just kind of happens. We see Hawkmoth talking about akumatizing somebody, but we haven't seen anybody who's going to be akumatized at that point. Tiki and Plague go to the Miracle Box because they're trying to contact Nuru, who's Hawkmoth's Miraculous, or Kwame, or whatnot, because it's his 3,500th cycle, or whatever that means. It's like his birthday, so then on certain cycles, I guess they can communicate with them if they're all there in the Miracle Box. So like, Tiki tells Marinette about this. Plague just kind of sneaks out, basically. But it ends up the Sandboy gets akumatized. And at first, Marinette just thinks she's having a nightmare. Adrian comes in and he's like, Marinette, I'm in love with a girl, and her name is Chloe. You know, like, he keeps doing that, and he's like, that whole Marinette, that whole thing is like kind of a meme from this episode, but yeah, so Sandboy's also an interesting villain, kind of can make a lot of things happen. He makes nightmares happen all over the place and stuff. It's pretty cool, you know. But also, you get to see all the Kwamis for the first time, so that's pretty cool. And also, it's like the whole struggle of, oh, we can't save the day because we don't have our miraculous, and we don't have our Kwamis to turn into Ladybug and Cat Noir and all of that, so, I don't know, that was an interesting episode. I like Sandboy as an episode, pretty good. Reverser, like I said, pretty okay episode. It's all about this guy, Mark, who is the guy I couldn't remember his name before, who writes stories about Ladybug. And then Nathaniel, the guy from Eve Illustrator, makes comics about Ladybug. So Marinette wants to hook them up to make a comic about Ladybug, basically. You know, combine their talents or whatnot. So, yeah, but there's this like whole misunderstanding because his story is called The Diary of Ladybug. So like Nathaniel thinks it's the actual Diary of Ladybug because he's still obsessed with Ladybug from the Eve Illustrator episode. Notably, he makes him and Reverser's evil forms into heroes in his stories, which is pretty cool, even though it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense powers-wise. Like, how do you get akumatized in a good way, or whatever? Like, Hawkmoth's not just gonna give you an Akuma to, like, go out and be a hero, you know, basically. Although, that would be a good approach. That's kind of what he did with Volpina, or whatnot. But anyway, yeah, so basically, he gets akumatized because of that whole misunderstanding, and he's a reverser. He throws little airplanes at people to reverse them, so like Ladybug becomes a klutz because, you know, she's really acrobatic and stuff. Ironically, she becomes like Marinette, basically. And then Adrian becomes, like, really super scared, or Cat Noir, or whatever. So it's a kind of a fun episode. Oh, the space dumpsters is, like, the most iconic part of the episode. Running meme, or whatever. Not a running meme. It's a running meme between the overly animated podcast there, but this is the space dumpsters episode, so that's really notable. It's a fun episode overall, but it's not one of the better episodes. But Mark and Nathaniel end up together, so that's nice, you know. I mean, this is kind of the origin of that. The origin of the art room and stuff like that. You know, there's some good things in this episode. It's just not one of my favorites from the season. Frozer is a classic episode. We kind of get the Kagame and Luca relationships with Marinette and Adrian, respectively. Adrian comes to Marinette for advice about Kagame, after he gets rejected by Ladybug. Kagame's like, you're just going after the same target. You gotta switch targets, basically. And, so he decides that they should go on a date, or whatever, him and Kagame, to the ice ring, but he's nervous about that. And so he's like, I need advice from Marinette. So he goes to Marinette, and he's like, oh yeah, it's this girl with like dark hair, and oh, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, it's Kagame. And she's like, the Ice Queen? He's like, what? And she's like, no. And so she ends up giving him advice about going to the skating rink or whatever. And he wants Marinette to come along, and she eventually invites Luca. But there's a nice scene in there where she's like, well, I think maybe me and Adrian were just meant to be friends. I mean, I could talk to him perfectly well when we're just being friends, and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And in a way, she's right. You know, obviously they end up together later, but she needed to build her friendship with him before she built the relationship. So I think that's really healthy of a mentality for her to have. By the end of the episode, of course, she's still head over heels for Adrian. But, yeah, there's some hijinks in there and stuff. There's a new power-up. They have the Ice Skater power-up or whatnot. Frozer's like an okay villain. You kind of feel bad for him. For they're going to close down his ice rink or whatever. I think it's a significant episode. For a lot of reasons. So, and especially it starts the Kagame and Luca stuff pretty well. So, yeah. So kind of right before the big finale episodes is Frozer there. So then we have the Style Queen trilogy. So in Style Queen, we finally meet Chloe's mom, Audrey Bourgeois. So yeah, so Audrey Bourgeois is like this big fashion designer person. She's there in Paris. Hawkmoth has this whole plan to like akumatize her because she's built up with all this rage and hate and all this stuff. And we finally get to see Emily down there in the weird glass container thing. And he's like, this will be my masterpiece. She's so filled with hate and anger and blah 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 and all this stuff. So she turns into Style Queen, who and Marinette's really like anxious about her hat and all of this stuff, and she's like, oh, Audrey Bourgeois won't like this and blah blah blah, and she does end up really liking it at the end there. But basically Style Queen, and Chloe's just trying to get close to her mom this whole time. Style Queen like turns people into these like glitter statues or whatever. She's like made of glitter. That's kind of how Marinette gets her to gets through it. She glues a flag and then like just takes enough off of there to get the Akuma or whatever. Notably though, I mean, it's a great episode other than that, you know, like everything about it's really great. You know, it kind of pays off a lot of things. The pigeon thing, you know, for Mr. Pigeon, the hat, the fashion shoot thing, Marinette and Adrian and all of that. It's just a great sort of almost end of the season kind of episode, and it's part of a trilogy too, which is the great part. Great episode overall, but then what happens is Marinette goes to get the Be Miraculous, and then she loses it. And since Cat Noir, or Adrian, was the first person to get glitter statuified, Master Fu has to make up a story about him losing a Miraculous too. Cat Noir, that he lost his Miraculous, and his Kwame is there, basically, and all of this stuff. So, but yeah, just great overall. But then she loses that, and then Chloe finds it, and then that's what the next episode is about. Chloe trying to be Queen Bee, and she gives away her secret identity right away, which really sucks for her. But again, she's just trying to impress her mom, you know, and her mom is just so hard to impress and all this stuff. But Audrey's really impressed with Marinette's hat, and she's like, you should come to New York with me, and I'll leave on a helicopter to the airport at 8 o'clock, you know, meet us here. And Tiki's like, well, if you leave for New York, you can't be Ladybug anymore, and who's going to protect Paris and all this stuff. And her parents are really supportive, and they're ready to do it, and ready to move to New York, all this stuff. But there's a whole plot in there about, since Chloe found the Miraculous, she basically announces that she's Queen Bee, giving away her secret identity right away, which is a big problem of the Queen Bee character, and why she can't be Queen Bee as of the next season. But she does a great job as Queen Bee in this season, earlier on. So, but right off the bat, she tries to cause a problem so that she can solve it. Ladybug and Cat Noir have to help her fix the problem of this like runaway subway, and yeah, she ends up apologizing. She doesn't want to give back her miraculous at first, um, but by the end of the episode, she ends up apologizing and having a really tearful and emotional scene with like Ladybug and stuff. And she's like, "I'm really sorry. Um, I just wanted my mom to notice me basically and all this stuff." And it's like this really sad moment. And it's like the first big step to Chloe redemption, that sort of happened and then they went way back on basically. But it's a really nice moment and it really, really makes this trilogy of episodes like really strong, as the Chloe stuff. That's kind of what glues it all together. The next episode, she kind of goes back to being herself again for the beginning of the episode, and Marinette really pisses her off. So she wants to just leave to go to New York, and so she basically does that. Everyone starts celebrating. Adrian's like, "I don't think that's a good thing at all. I think that's terrible. Chloe was a really good friend to me when I was a little kid," and all this stuff. And so Marinette feels bad, and she tries to make it up to Chloe. She's gonna make it up to Chloe later in the episode. But anyway, her dad gets akumatized into maledictator because they're like railing on him about how he can't do anything right and he can't, basically he's incompetent and he doesn't have any power even though he's the mayor of Paris and he can't shut down the school and all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. And so he basically just has the power to make people do what he wants at that point. And Chloe gets away. She gets to be the Queen Bee again because Marinette needs her because Cat Noir gets put under the influence of that and he's basically just gets to pretend to be a cat. So it's Marinette and Chloe, Ladybug and Queen Bee teaming up to fight the Maledictator. So I think that's a really good dynamic to the episode, and I really like that. Chloe's really excited. You can see this genuine happiness on her face. Pouring out for the Chloe we never got. This redemption Chloe. Either they should have done this later or they should have just stuck with this, I think that would have been a really great thing. But maybe they wanted to introduce Zoe later on, of course. So maybe that was the reason. I don't know. Anyway, she gets this like big bazooka gun thing. Chloe's like, "Well, that's an effective Lucky Charm," and she just takes the little laser and Cat points it basically. But Maledictator is also a pretty threatening villain overall, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, that's a great episode. So that's just a great trilogy of episodes too. Is the Style Queen trilogy really great way to kind of end the normal episodes of season 4. Then you have before we talk about that, let's talk about Santa Claus, which I think was at the beginning of the season or whatever. It's a Christmas episode. It has a nice emotional beat with Adrian and his mom and him and his dad. His dad kind of is being, cold and shut away like he always is. But I mean, specifically now because it's been like a year since his mom disappeared and all that disappeared. She's in the basement, obviously, but, so yeah, Adrian gets all bent out of shape. He goes out and he gets really mad about that, and he finds the real Santa Claus. There's musical numbers in this episode, like, that's a thing. He finds the real Santa Claus, and he, like, helps him out and stuff, and Santa Claus helps him. Marinette thinks he's, like, an akumatized person, so she like harasses him a little bit, and that's how he actually ends up getting akumatized because like he's all really pissed off about that. A pretty standard episode. I mean, it's better than a lot of season 1 episodes, but it just nothing too special. I mean, there is, like I said, some nice emotional stuff with Adrian and with his mom and dealing with all of that there and Christmas stuff, I guess. So Not bad. Pretty good episode. But then there's Heroes Day. Heroes Day Part 1 and 2. So the first part of Heroes Day is notable because we actually get to see Lila again. and she's still lying. She's lying about being in the kingdom of a Chew and all of that, and Marinette's trying to call her out on it, but she like has her at every stop there. She ends up getting akumatized, and puts out an illusion um, of Ladybug and Cat Noir, like an evil Ladybug fighting, and she gets Cat Noir to cataclysm himself, so everyone thinks that they're gone, so that all of this energy, all this negativity, all this hope that's lost, basically because of that, Hawkmoth can capitalize on that. And because of that, this is like his big plan. This is like the biggest plan he's ever had. This was kind of his, coup de grace of stuff there. So he, basically, after that, he akumatizes Natalie, to give her the power to boost his powers, which is like, why doesn't he always do that, right? I don't know, whatever. Anyway, basically, him akumatizing her breaks the limit of how many Akumas he can send out. So you can just send out infinite Akumas, and she gives him the power to be Scarlet Moth. One of his many... He identifies as like 16 different fucking... It's probably like 5 or something different forms in this series, I swear. He's got like Scarlet Moth, Hawkmoth, Monarch, what was the one before that? Shadow Moth, like he's got a ton of them, Anyway, so Scarlet Moth gets to akumatize as many people as he wants, so he sends out all these Akumas, and he basically akumatizes everyone that has been akumatized to this point, with the notable exception of like Julica, who I think he does get later. I believe he gets Rose. I don't remember if he does end up getting Julica later. And then the hero cast, so it would be Alia, Nino, Marinette, Adrian, and Chloe don't get akumatized right away. They do end up getting akumatized in the second episode with their Miraculouses on. I do not know how Hawkmoth lost that one, like, for fucking sure. Especially when it was just Ladybug and Cat Noir. He should have definitely had that one in the bag. But anyway, so that's what the episode kind of ends on, is like you see every villain standing there in front of the Eiffel Tower, and Ladybug has like assembled the Avengers of Ladybug character, of the heroes that she's built up so far, and you're like, fuck yes, this is awesome. I love it. It's such a good energy. The second episode is a lot of them like fighting off the villains, and then they realize like they can just keep getting akumatized, and they're like, this is like Hawkmoth's like smartest plan too. He had like Vanisher follow her. She ended up figuring it out, but like he was gonna follow her to the Guardian basically and stuff. It's like, oh my god, that's fucking awesome. Like he had this all thought out, But yeah, it's fun to see all those people akumatized again, and then he gets to akumatize like Rena Rage and Shell Shocked or whatever it was. So great, so fucking great. I try to like, a lot of it is just action and whatnot, but I just think it's done so well. He's just so on top of his game here. The fact that he failed is just like a whole nother thing. Like, even when they get to the Eiffel Tower to like fight him one-on-one, it's illusion. It's a Volpina illusion, which is crazy. It's like he's one step ahead of everything. They do end up getting him and well, at least like stopping him, but then he gets away because Natalie uses the Peacock Miraculous to create an Akuma, or an Amok is what I was trying to say. To create a Senti monster for the first time, like a giant like moth thing or something that like breaks Ladybug's cage around the Eiffel Tower, and he gets away. But pretty fucking epic episode, you know, like really good. So many great things about the episode. You even get to see them use both power-ups again. There's the iconic, like, they both de-transform in the sewer there, and they, like, encourage each other and stuff. I don't know. I really love it. I mean, I don't know how to put it into words, but these are just some of the greatest Ladybug episodes ever. Like, Hawkmoth is competent. Like, Ladybug and the Avengers of Ladybug, theirs is fucking great. Like, their little team there. So much good stuff about it. You can see every villain to that point akumatized again for the most part. Which is amazing. Like, I don't think he's ever done that since, like, Hawkmoth. Like, I don't think he ever had the opportunity to do that after that. Like, crazy. Great stuff. So fucking epic, you know? Season 2 of Ladybug is just so peak. It is so top tier. It is such an evolution to season 1. Like, it is so much better than season 1. The writing and even the animation and everything, just like everything just gets popped up another notch. You know, the character work, the plots, the akumatization, the lore with the Emily stuff, and even with the Miraculous stuff. You know, we get a lot more of that. You know, everything just builds a little more, and I think that's great. A near flawless season of Ladybug. Like, almost every episode is great. Season 3 and beyond, there are always some clunker episodes in there. A lot of stuff that doesn't contribute anything. A lot of stuff to tease you and make you think that something's going to happen, and then they go back on it kind of thing. Like the Cat Blanc and all of that, you know, like, and play with your emotions way too much. And this all feels really significant. Some of that stuff, you know, is cool, but it just feels like, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this? You know, like, come on. Was this episode really necessary? Like, it feels like all of these episodes were really necessary, you know? It really just builds on everything. And I think that's what's so great about season 2. Everything's just bigger, better. They really dive into the Ladybug, Cat Noir dynamic and all of the other parts of the love square, whatever. They actually establish about the feelings and whatnot. And at the end, Marinette kisses Adrian on the cheek, which is nice. It doesn't end up meaning anything as far as I remember, but she has the courage to do that, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, I just really love the finale and everything in season 2. I think season 2 is just really great, and it might be the best season of Ladybug if it wasn't for some stuff that happens later in the show, you know. But overall, just as a consistent season, it might be the best one. I do like season 5 a lot. I think season 5 is really top tier stuff there. But not every episode in season 5 was great. Most episodes were. Most episodes were really great in season 5, especially the later half of season 5, I feel like was pretty significant there. But I don't know. I just feel like all the quality here just is so good. This is the season that really established Ladybug as being a contender for a great show. You know, the first season was good, but this really rocketed it up there. This makes the show like really like top tier, you know, like really worth watching and stuff. So it cemented Ladybug as like a thing, you know, like a real deal show. It's not just some kid's show. It's better than that. It's miraculous, right? So yeah, anyway, great season 2, top 10 out of 10, you know, top tier, I meant to say, 10 out of 10 kind of season. So, you know, if you want my rankings on season so far, obviously season 2, season 1. So, yeah, stick around subscribe to join the Bad Girl Coven, and to see season 3 and beyond of Miraculous Ladybug. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget, magic comes from the heart. Emily,